Hello, this is Brendan, and in this episode, I'm going to just review a bunch of stuff I've been doing recently. I've been skipping around a lot, and I'm trying to make a schedule on some things and organize some things. I have too many things that I want to get done. If you follow my videos, you'll notice I even jump around in my ideas when I'm thinking, and it's kind of hard to stay focused. I'm probably a good candidate for what's that condition they accuse every child of having now, ADHD or something. But I'm not even a big believer in that. I think, I don't know, some people are just very creative. I do believe that being creative is kind of a problem for some people. So you have too many ideas which you're constantly trying to work through, and how to organize those ideas becomes a big problem. But it also causes a lot of productivity, which is a positive thing. So I think that's good. Let me just go in order. One of the main focuses that I have for this video is to add a little bit more emphasis on my new course, which is called contrast drawing. And so I'm going to show a couple examples of where contrast drawing has worked out to be very useful. And also I just wanted to show you, this is what I worked on today, that it just kind of came to me, or I don't know, I got bored of doing fantasy, so I started working on this guy here. And there's a bunch of stuff in this that I thought was interesting that made me want to do it. One of the ideas is that was in the future. It's a line drawing, so I could do it relatively fast. I guess I spent like a half a day on it. I probably spent longer on it because I was a little slow and just thinking about the details of everything that I wanted to have in the room around him. And also the perspective was very difficult. If you've seen any of my courses on perspective, particularly the course Creative Perspective Illustration is a very good course, which I made. And I'm not flattering myself. I mean, it's just that's my course for perspective, where I really took the time. I spent a long time making that course to cover all aspects of how to draw good perspective for beginners. Now, this illustration is not representative of what you'd call a very good standard perspective. It's more of a fishbowl kind of perspective. As you can see, everything's kind of rounded. So I did that for a reason. One is that I'm trying to make it look just more interesting, more spacey, because it's kind of a science fiction environment. And the reason I'm flipping it, by the way, is as I'm doing this, I'm looking at the roundness of this side and this side and kind of comparing them, right, to see. It's not very balanced. I didn't do a great job at it. I did a rush job, but I like how it came out. And so again, a few reasons why the fishbowl perspective like this, where it's more rounded, are good. One is that you can fit more stuff inside there, right? So I wanted to show off this room that this guy is in. It's like in the future. He has some kind of techie goggles on. He's watching a sci-fi movie. And if you can guess which one that is before I say it in a minute, then you get bonus points. So 3, 2, 1. The movie right there is Blade Runner. That's a scene from Blade Runner, which has a replicant, the female replicant, who Deckard goes to do a test on. And I did trace her directly from a photo as I put her in there. So I don't know. It's about as realistic as I could get it. Maybe later I'll work on that a bit. Outside of that, I just wanted to point out that this type of perspective does get covered loosely towards the end of that course. It's just something that, I don't know, it's not for beginners. Even me, I have difficulty with it, so who am I to be teaching it? It's really hard to get those curved lines perfect, even with software. So obviously anybody who can do that freehand on a piece of paper or on a canvas is more talented than I am. I simply would never be able to do that. So I used a lot of assistance from the software to do that, which many people know is GIMP. It's the GIMP, G-I-M-P software, which I'm using. And so that was that. I just wanted to throw that in there real quick. Once that got out of the way, I started looking at my Greek mythology series again. Now here is a good example of where contrast drawing came in very good. If we go into, this one was Daedalus, I had a pretty good contrast drawing here for this one. There was previously it looked like this. And that's also a contrast drawing, but it was a little light. And then this one I filled it in a bit more darker. But this one I think is a bit more clear. Anyway, I had both of them because it's digital, so you know it doesn't matter to me. And then I used that as a foundation to create this. And so I think this is good. And when I put it up online, I got a lot of good feedback. I put on a Reddit group for Greek mythology. They seem to like it. So, you know, that I even had somebody, by the way, you know, ask me to use it in an article or they were working on or something. I said, and of course I said yes, just give me credit. And so, I mean, you know, there's a way to gauge whether or not you did a good job at something, and I think that's one. I also just like to look at it myself, which I think, you know, if you make something that you're proud of, that's also a good sign that you might have done a good job. And so that was that, from contrast drawing into painting. And there's a whole process of how I got that done. But first I had to get the contrast drawing done, which was, you know, just to drive the point home. I'll just show this, you know, one more time. It started off like this, black and white, with just really hard blacks and really sharp whites, and no grays or anything in between. And then it was so easy to fill in the colors where I wanted them and create the rest of this. Obviously, it's not that easy. There's a lot of work and gradients and brush techniques and this and that, but that's digital painting. For now, I just want to emphasize the usefulness of contrast drawing in that case. Here was another one. This one is not so much contrast drawing, if I can get back to the correct folder over here, but quite similar. This one is Grayscale, only used grays, but the character himself is a contrast drawing. Obviously, he's just pure black and pure white, and in the background I decided, originally it was sort of a contrast drawing, but I decided to go with the Grayscale. But how hard is it with especially if you're using digital, to switch from you know, pure blacks into some grays and add gradients? It's not hard at all. And of course, if you're working on a traditional medium, then you would simply go about it differently. But the point being that I took it from this point, it gave me a really good foundation, and I'm also proud of this, and people like this. Again, this was I personally am proud of this. And when I shared it with people online, they seem to like it a lot. So that's a double win. That's a win-win scenario right there. And I'm still working on it now, and we're getting. I'm not finished, but we're getting closer to what will be a nice finished digital painting. I believe we're getting there. Right? I'm working on the highlights and the colors, and I have to clean up and get rid of all the black lines and stuff. But I think that's going to come out pretty good. So another reason that, by the way, lots of stuff, just a random talk about. Another reason it feels good to jump around like this. I even stopped for a day and just drew a bunch of stuff for other people by request on Reddit. And I'm not going to show you all that now. It's just too much. But jumping around like this from this illustration to that one, it can be really good productivity-wise, to be put it that way, because you need to let your eyes rest. It's what I always refer to as called letting the paint dry, even if it's digital or even if you're just working in pencil. I still call it letting the paint dry. It's like letting your eyes rest and coming back later with fresh eyes so that you can see where previously you might not have seen some mistakes because you're staring at the image for so long. It gets sort of branded into your memory, and you get used to looking at a lot of the mistakes, and you just don't notice them. But if you stop for a while, take a break, and come back, let the paint dry, as I call it. That's my expression. I didn't invent it, I don't think, but it's a common expression used in art. I've heard a lot. Just let the paint dry a bit, come back later, and then you can work on it. So it's nice to have multiple things going on at once, and just come back and forth and work on stuff like that. So that was another example of the contrast drawing going into a color. This one is very high contrast. Let me see if I can get the original for this one. This is Perseus and Medusa, number 5. Okay. This one also rather well. No, the black and white version of this, nobody cared. Actually, I think nobody. I cared. I love it. This is one of my favorites. But I think I was posting too much and people got bored of me. And so, but this is it, right? This is the contrast drawing. I took a lot of time to look up, as usual, how the details of Medusa should be. Of course, we all know she has snakes on her head. A lot of people neglect the fact that she's supposed to have wings, as I read in a couple places, or was it just one? I don't know. And as to whether or not she has a snake body, that seems to come from movies. I had discussion with people about this online. I just decided to go with it. It's hard to say. I don't know. I think I did a whole video on that. And I noted that since they're in a cave, I had bats. And then I thought, well, while we have bats, why not give her bat-like wings? That would all kind of make sense. So there's a lot of, I don't know, symbolism, I guess what you'd call there. And all this and that is in there. So anyway, from that contrast drawing, it was very easy to split. I just used they call the lasso tool. What do they call it? The free select tool in GIMP. In Photoshop, I guess they call that the lasso tool, right? So I could go into here and select an area and just right, just like that, just cut it out, right? So what I did is I very painstakingly, actually, it took a long time, not a very long time. As you can see, I just created 3 sections is the point I'm trying to get to. We have the foreground here with Perseus, and it's even cut out rather rough, right? You can see that, but I'm just going to clean all that up the old-fashioned way. And the foreground has the darkest blacks and the whitest whites. I didn't change any of the whites anywhere, actually. And for the midground, where Medusa is here, I made it a bit lighter, a bit more gray, and then the background has the lightest gray. So now you can feel the depth, right? You see the foreground is very strong, midground gets a little weaker, and the background is it gets lighter. So you really start to feel a little bit of the depth. And that's only the beginning, obviously, right? Now I have to start adding color and doing a lot of stuff like that. So, but if we compare it to this, which might be a reason, not everybody has my imagination. Not everybody likes contrast drawings. But the point I'm trying to make is that using your imagination and starting off like this, it did not take long at all to make this type of contrast drawing. And although I said it was a bit tedious, it was a lot easier to create this 3 layers, foreground, background, midground, than if I were to have to separate them and draw them all from scratch. That would have taken a lot longer. So now I have these 3 separate layers I can work on. And from this point, I can start adding color. And so I'm going to do that. I don't know, I did not plan on doing that right now in this video, and I think that would be boring. I could do a time lapse. I might just, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and make the video, and I'll put up whatever I finished for today at the end of the video, so you can see that, and then you won't have to watch the time lapse, because it'd probably be very long and time consuming. But I can do that, and I will do that in later videos so that you can see how I do that for people who are interested in that type of stuff. I have more courses coming up soon, hopefully. I've been very busy, but just want to, since I'm taking the whole day off here to work on all this stuff, I figured I might as well make a video and get it out there and, poke my head out of my turtle shell and see how everyone is doing. I hope everyone has been staying creative, keeping busy. If you have any questions about anything regarding GIMP, or drawing techniques or perspective, please do feel free to keep in touch. I always love to hear your questions, and it's fun to keep communicating with you. So have a nice day, stay creative, and we'll see you later.